Hello everyone, today our group will talk about Chapter 10, Designing Organizational Structure, Basic Designs. A key to success in management in your career is knowing how to delegate work tasks to others. Let me talk briefly about the learning objectives. Describe 6 key elements in organizational designs. Construct mechanistic and organic structures. Discuss the contingency factors that favor either the mechanistic model or the organic model of organizational designs. Describe traditional organizational designs. Let's begin with LO1. Designing organizational structure. Organizing is arranging and structuring work to accomplish an organization's goals. Organizational structure. The formal arrangement of jobs within an organization's organizational chart. The visual representation of an organizational structures. Organizational designs. A process involves decision about 6 key elements: work specialization, departmentalization, chain of command, span of control, centralization and decentralization, formalization. Work specialization is dividing work activities into separate job tasks. Departmentalization is the basis by which jobs are grouped together. Chain of command is the continuous line of authority that extends from upper levels of an organization to the lowest level of the organization. Clarifies who responds to whom. Authority is the right inherent in a managerial position to tell people what to do and to expect them to do it. Management rather distinguish between 2 forms of authority, line authority and step authority. Line authority, authority that entitles a manager to direct the work of an employee. Step authority, positions that some authority that have been created to support, assist, and advise those holding line authority. Centralization is the degree to which decision making is concentrated and the upper levels of the organizations. Decentralization, the degree to which lower level employees provide input or actually make decisions. Employee empowerment, giving employees more authority to make decisions. Span of control, the number of employees who can effectively and efficiently supervised by a manager. Exhibit 10.6 illustrate constraining span of control. Formalizations, the degree to which jobs within the organizations are standardized and the extent to which employee behavior is guided by rules and procedures. Let's move to the LO2. Mechanistic organizations is an organizational design that's rigid and tightly controlled. Organic organizations is an organizational design that's highly adaptive and flexible. Next, contingency factor affecting structural choice. Changes in corporate strategy should lead to changes in an organization's structure that support the strategy. Certain structural designs work best in different organizational strategies. Organizational adapt their structures to their technology. And finally, managers try to minimize environmental uncertainty by adjusting the organizational structure.
Case 1, question 1. Charles Schwab is focusing on the communication with the customers to receive the direct feedback for his firm's service. so as to improve the weaknesses and better the strength. The company can greatly benefit from this move when the pros and cons are pointed out objectively by the customer looking from external viewpoints. However, this works effectively in ideal feedback culture where people frankly state their opinion about issues like in the United States, Germany, and Japan. Question 2. The culture of not buying into hype and not taking excessive risks mean this company tends to have more mechanic design. This can be easily understood due to the mission of the Charles Webb firm field finance, which require more stability in rapid changing world nowadays. Therefore, the mechanic design is more appropriate for the stability than the organic one. The centralization can be witnessed when Charles Schwab heavily influenced the organization as omnipotent manager. The chain of command is also clear so that the manager can receive feedback and deliver to lower department quickly to respond to customers' demand. Question 3. The focusing on customer strategy has certain impact on the structural design. To work effectively, there should be specialization with rigid departmentalization so that customers can know to whom they should talk or complain with. Furthermore, span of control and chain of command are clearly distinguished so that they can know where the responsible of customer dissatisfaction can be pointed out or solved easily. Finally, the formalization and centralization can easily be witnessed when the manager of the Charles Webb imposed this strategy to lower strict rules and standardization. Question 4. I think this arrangement is quite comfortable for any service companies because it emphasizes customer satisfaction and are always the best choice for service companies. Case 2. Question 1. Pfizer is looking for a way to keep their employees be more efficient and effective. Pfizer have its managers to spend more time and knowledge work when they really need it and less support working by shifting time-consuming tasks with a press upon. Pfizer work transfer responsibility of unnecessary tasks to the third party so as to have more time for specialized tasks. Question 2. The Office of Future Concept by Pfizer is a good decision taken by Pfizer's senior director. This organizational also following the 6 organizational design elements, which is division of work, departmentalization, hierarchy of development, centralization versus decentralization, formalization, and so on. Question 3. In my opinion, I think this method will be successful for organizations similar to Pfizer, who work requires a lot of researches and documentations. So basically, this arrangement would work for a lot of companies who have branches all around the world because they are doing their work globally. And they need to have a way to reduce the waste of time. So this arrangement is definitely not for a small one.
Hello everyone, my name is Kiet and today I will continue our presentation with learning object number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 of chapter 11, Designing Organizational Structure, Adaptive Design. Now we come to the first learning object. Learning object number 1, Contemporary Organizational Designs. Many organizations often inappropriate for today's increasingly dynamic and complex environment. Instead, organizations need to be lean, flexible, and innovative. That is, they need to be more organic. So managers are finding creative ways to structure and organize work. These contemporary designs include team structures, matrix and project structures, boundaries-less organizations, and learning organizations. Now we come to the first one, team structure. A team structure is one in which the entire organization is made up of work teams that do the organization's work. In large organizations, the team structure complements what is typically a functional or divisional structure and allows the organization to have the efficiency of a bureaucracy and flexibility that teams provide. The next one is matrix and project structure. The matrix structure assigns specialists from different functional departments to work on projects, being led by a project manager. Many organizations use a project structure in which employees continuously work on projects. Unlike the matrix structure, a project structure has no formal departments where employees at the completion of a project. Instead, employees take their specific skills, abilities, and experiences to other projects. And the next one is the boundaryless organization. The structural arrangement for getting work done that has developed around the massive collider is an example for another contemporary organizational design called the boundaryless organization. That is an organization whose design is not defined by or limited to the horizontal, vertical, or external boundaries imposed by the predefined structure. And next one is virtual organization. A virtual organization typically consists of a small core of full-time employees and outside specialists, contemporarily hired as needed to work on projects. And the next one is network organization. A network organization which uses its own employees to do some work activities and networks of outside suppliers to provide other needed product, components, or work processes. And the last one is learning organization. That is an organization that has developed a capacity to continuously learn, adapt, and change. Now we come to the learning object number 2, organizing for collaboration. An organization's collaboration efforts can be internal, that is, among employees within the organization, or those efforts can be external collaborations with any stakeholders. Now we come to the first one, the internal collaboration. When managers believe collaboration among employees is needed for more coordinated and integrated work efforts, the more popular include cross-functional teams, task forces, and communities of practices. The first one is cross-functional teams. It's a work team composed of individuals from various functional specialties. The next one is task forces, another structure option organizations might use in task force. That's a temporary committee or team formed to tackle a specific short-term problem affecting several departments. And the next one is communities of practice, which are groups of people who share a concern, a set of problems, or a passion about a topic, and who deepen their knowledge and expertise in that area by interacting on an ongoing basis. The next one is external collaboration. We are going to look at two forms of external collaboration: open innovation and strategic partnerships. Today, many companies are trying open innovation. That means opening up the search for new ideas beyond the organization boundaries and allowing innovations to easily transfer inward and outward. In the strategic partnerships, collaborative relationships between two or more organizations in which they combine their resources and capabilities for some business purpose. And we come to learning object number 3, flexible work arrangement. In this session, we're going to take a look at some different types of flexible work arrangements, including telecommunicating and compressed work weeks, flex time, and job sharing. The first one is telecommuting. Telecommuting is a work arrangement in which employees work at home and are linked to the workplace by computer. And the next one is compressed work weeks, flex time, and job sharing. Organizations may sometimes find they need to restructure work using forms of flexible work arrangements. One approach is compressed work week, a work week where employees work longer hours per day but fewer days per week. Another alternative is flex time, also known as flexible work hours. That's a schedule system in which employees are required to work a specific number of hours when a week but are free to vary those hours within certain limits. And the last one is job scheduling. It's called job sharing, the practice of having two or more people split a full-time job. And the next learning object is learning object number 4, contingent workforce. Contingent workers are temporarily freelance or contract workers whose employment is contingent on demand for their services. One of the main issues business face in their contingent workers, especially those who are independent contractors or freelancers, is classifying who actually qualifies as one. Another issue with contingent workers is the process of recruiting, screening, and placing these contingent workers where their work skills and efforts are needed. And the final issues we want to look at is the importance of contingent employees' performance. Just like a regular employee, a contingent employee is brought on board to do some specific work tasks. It's important for managers to have a method of establishing goals, schedules, and deadlines with the contingent employees. And we come to the last learning object, number 5, today organizational design challenges. And these challenges include keeping employees connected and managing global structure issues. The first issue is keeping employees connected. A major structure design challenge for managers is finding a way to offer flexibility while also keeping widely dispersed and mobile employees connected to the organization. And the last one is managing global structure issues. Researchers have concluded that the structures and strategies of organizations worldwide are similar, while the behavior within them is maintaining its cultural uniqueness. And another study found that organizations with people from high power distant countries find that their employees are much more accepting of mechanistic structures than are employees from low power distant countries. Other structural design elements may be affected by cultural differences as well. And that's just the end of my section. Now we'll come to the case application of this chapter. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Thanh Lam, and today we'll present about the case application of chapter 11, designing organizational structures, adaptive designs. The case application is organizational volunteers. What do you think about using volunteers to work that other people get paid to do? Well, the concept of free labor is now being explored by Verizon's e-commerce unit, where volunteers who are passionate about their products, high-speed internet,
telephone and television service have answered the customer question. What it sounds like a win-win. People are knowledge experts doing for free. It has the potential to create a lot of problems for the organization. Questions that might arise include: how do you make sure people show up for work? What if this volunteer make a mistake that puts the company at risk for a lawsuit? What if they're rude to the customer? The second question is, if you were Mark Stannard's position, what would you be most concerned about in this arrangement? How would you manage that concern? Obviously, these employees would not be managed in traditional sense, in that they are not paid, cannot be forced to do certain behavior or punished for failing to perform. On the other hand, they can motivate and reward. Management in this environment depends upon building relationships with the volunteers. Employees in this case believe in that they are doing it, and the company should foster strong relationships based on the common values and beliefs. In addition, companies that use volunteers can still find ways to reward volunteers even when there's no salaries. How do these volunteers fit into an organization structure? Take up the 6 elements of organizational design and discuss how each work affects this structure's approach. The 6 elements in organizational design are work, specialization, chain of command, span of control, departmentalization, centralization, decentralization, and the formalization. Relating these elements to volunteers are most likely to be specialized in that their knowledge and task in the organizations is limited to certain areas and certain behaviors. They would be included in a chain of command at first line employees and have no other employees that they supervise. As first line employees, they would have no span of control, and managers who supervise volunteers would probably have large span of control. In this case of Verizon, they fell into an area of customer service. But this could vary from companies to company in how volunteers are used. Decision making for volunteers would be naturally be limited. While they are be free to give their opinion, they would not be making decisions for the organization of other employees. Finally, the level of formalization may vary for volunteers depending on their tasks. The second application is you work where. It's a case application of the Yahoo. The first question is evaluate Yahoo's new work indicated. Did it have to be an all or nothing proposition? Absolutely. Going by the article in the case application alone, it seemed that entire company needed an overhaul and was in bad shape. It would be almost impossible to decide who would be allowed to continue or who wouldn't. The company morale was suffering and employees were not working as a team. Yahoo's human resource head Jackie Reese realized the disconnect as well when she sent a memo explaining the company's decision in 2013. Best decision and insights come from hallway and cafeteria discussion, and that actual present the office encouraged better collaboration and communication. One could have the perspective that if the office is going to become a collection of employees not working together, it essentially becomes no different than a coffee shop. Yahoo's new CEO Marissa Mayer had a very large task. Fortunately, she was able to recognize a weak area that was acting as a cancer, affecting the entire company. She makes a decision that will hopefully place Yahoo in positions once again to compete against its competitions. A decision that I'm sure it will be evaluated many times over as to its correctness. But for the situation of Yahoo was in, I believe that is what needed. Thank you for listening.